So we're now on episode 7. Feel free to move to the left of the landing and continue on to the episode.
So I'm joined now by Adiola, who's our summer intern here at Environment Hamilton, and we're both just going to reflect a little bit on the space around us down here. Because anytime you come down to the waterfront, it is worth thinking about this, thinking about how human beings have, in good and bad ways, modified this landscape and this environment. Adiola, what do you think?
Well, yeah, when we were on the tour, I sort of like to direct the group to look towards the north, towards like Burlington and the harbor, and you see all the green space, the trees, the water, and then if you look east, the landscape almost changes completely, and you see the industry that you so well described in the previous episodes. And the contradiction is jarring, but it's also both like a part of a Hamiltonian identity, so it's interesting in terms of how they both coexist in our day-to-day.
Yeah, it really is. I often say to people when they ask me about Hamilton that there's this really interesting tension between really serious human impacts on the landscape and incredible natural spaces. So one story I think that's worth telling is where all of that industry sits now was once one of the most productive wetlands in the western corner of Lake Ontario.
Yes,
when you read historical descriptions of this space, people describe, when the ducks took off, there were so many of them that it made the sky dark. And trying to imagine what that would have been like, it's hard to wrap your head around. It also makes me think too about the Indigenous community and people who have always been in this area and know this land, and how challenging it must be for them to kind of reflect on the changes, and hopefully we can all hope for a better future too.
Yeah, and even entrenched in the design of the pier as well, on the metal structures engraved are different names of different creeks too. And you were mentioning something about where they used to run in relation to the pier now and Hamilton's sort of development.
Yeah, once upon a time there were 13 or 14 creeks that ran through the city, and I've seen old maps, and it gets you thinking, where are those creeks now? Some of them have been buried into sewers. But it also makes me think, what an aspirational goal if we could figure out how to do what they call daylighting, unbury one of those creeks and restore it, to get people really thinking about that really important connection to the watershed that we're all a part of.
Yeah. And even on the first tour, I remember someone joined us, and they're a new homeowner in Hamilton, just 6 months, and they were talking about why they moved to Hamilton, and it just kind of shocked the both of us, because they were like, well, there's so much happening, there's so much change, there's so much growth. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess there's something attractive now about Hamilton. And I think there's always been something attractive, but it's now that folks are starting to see it, maybe.
Yeah. People from the outside.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, because I think a lot of Hamiltonians have always known. People will joke and say, "Oh, they see the worst from the highway." So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think more and more people are realizing this is an incredible place.
Yeah.
And with some of the change that's coming, it's hopefully going to get better and healthier, and, like we like to say, more climate resilient, more inclusive, a city that will welcome everyone and give everyone a safe and healthy place to be.
And that sort of brings a sense of like stewardship, and like why we do stack watching too. We said it once, and it's always stuck with me, like the importance of bearing witness and how much community care that shows. And I think that's what sticks out to me most about the stack watching.
Yeah, great point.
That's all for episode 7. The next episode is expert stack watching. What qualifies one to expert stack watch is if you knew all the information presented already by Linda, you maybe came on an in-person walk, you've been doing stack watching for years, or even many times in 1 year. Maybe you've even made some calls to the Ministry of the Environment. This would qualify you to press play for episode 8. If not, if you feel like you're just a beginner and you want to get your feet wet for the first time, you can head back down the way you came, down the pier, all the way to the marina, and jump to episode 9, the final episode.